Hello, Haldun Kaya speaking. In this video, I'm going to present the article, The Assessment of Second Language Teaching, written by Craig Thane. Before getting into the details, I will tell you that the article was published in 2004, so some of the information is not valid anymore. I'll inform you about those obsolete points when necessary. When we hear the phrase the assessment of second language teaching, many things might spring to our mind. To display the related concepts in a more organized way, I want to share this table with you. As you see, there are two columns. As for the mode of assessment, there are two types, oral or written. Intention could be informal or formal. The purpose could be formative or summative. An interpretation could be done in terms of non-referenced or criterion referenced, and it could be administered in a large scale or classroom based. And this table is retrieved from the website, not from the article. In the article, formative approaches and summative approaches were displayed. And for portfolio, we know that portfolio places a strong focus on a trainee teacher's autonomous individualized developments, and also assessed practicum, which is the focus of this study. Assessed practicum, although it's quite common in many teacher training institutions, it's interesting to note that there is limited discussion in the literature of how this practicum is assessed. And one of the common problems related to the assessed practicum is tutors' subjective view of good teaching. And here is the solution, using of systematic, consensual, and transparent observation and assessment methods. But there is far more important issue related to the assessment of second language teaching, which is the criteria. Which criteria to judge a teacher's performance? And before we getting into the assessment, we need to focus on the constructs. What do we mean by construct? Construct refers to the underlying skills and knowledge that are taught necessary for a satisfactory lesson. And in this study, study-based definition of construct is taken into consideration as represented by the Cambridge CELTA syllabus. By the way, it's not Cambridge CELTA, Cambridge English CELTA syllabus. And here is the definition of syllabus-based construct. And you can ask, what is the relation between construct and criteria? The constructs, which you can see across the syllabus, set the specifications for the assessment. If what we mean by construct is vague, or the constructs are not certain, the measurement cannot be reliable. That's why construction definition is a prerequisite step for reliability. And in this study, apart from the construction definition and reliability, the reliability of trainers' different interpretations of the sample criteria also focused on. And the purpose of this study is, in this action research, is the assessment of second language teacher education and the relationship between Cambridge CELTA criteria and the construct, and also, as I said, trainers' operationalizational of criteria, how they interpret and understand and apply the criteria. And CELTA in the article is referred as certificate in English language teaching to adults, but it doesn't refer that. CELTA is certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and the context is in New Zealand. And I need to give information about the CELTA. In the article it says 106 contact hours, but it is not. It is from now it's 112 contact hours. And the assessment is internal and continuous. What do we mean by internal? There is no external assessor or moderator. The trainees are assessed by the center's tutors, and it's continuous. The assessment is continuous, which means that there is no final exam only, because each trainee is expected to deliver 6-hour practicum to non-native speakers over 16 years old, and the trainees are expected to teach at least 2 different distinct levels: elementary or intermediate, pre-intermediate or advanced levels, and they're assessed by a minimum of 2 tutors. Apart from this teaching practice, the trainees are also expected to hand in 4 written assignments on the areas, as you see: language use, language learners, language skills, classroom observations, and reflection. Here is the portfolio that the trainees are expected to complete throughout the course, and it's called CELTA 5. 5 refers to the framework, the stage of the diploma. If it is Delta, it is 7. For CELTA, it's 5. And in the article, it says that the course content covers 6 areas, but it's updated, it covers 5 areas. And here are the areas, and the assessment also displayed in the table, as you can see. And in the middle of the course, the trainees are asked to complete this. For example, for them, the identifying or stating appropriate outcomes for individual lessons. And what do we mean by 4A, 4B? Again, in the portfolio, the candidates, the trainees, can see what we mean by these criteria. And also, they'll indicate the areas that they think they need to work on and whether they are standard up to the course or not. And in the study, there are 14 CELTA trainers at 6 different centers, and the trainers are asked, where they were asked to answer these 2 questions: what does each criterion mean to them, and what training activity or activities in teaching practice do they look for in order to decide if the criterion has been met. And the feedback from trainers, just under half of the criteria are easy to interpret and transparent to trainers because their responses were consistent, but the remaining criteria, not consistent, maybe because of the interpretations, or the criteria were perceived as being difficult to define. To give a specific example, in the article, it's given criteria 5, which is focusing on appropriate specific language and or skills. Sorry. And the interpretations of the tutors are quite wide-ranging, and they cover many different facets of this criterion. For example, some of them regarded this as knowing the difference between language and skills. Some think that is related to material choice or task setting or language analysis. Wide variety. And unfortunately, this resulted in unreliability. How? For example, in a lesson, for example, the main focus is on language, but also that lesson also includes some skill work. So this causes a problem for the tutors. Why? Because one trainer thought that the lesson was too standard. Why? Because one aspect of the criterion was handled well enough. But another trainer thought that it's not to the standard because the participant teacher, the trainee, could not demonstrate teaching ability in more than one aspect of this particular criterion. So one criterion, different assessment marks. So this creates unreliability because it leads to overgeneralization. And before moving on to the implications, again in the article, the syllabus and also the assessments are given. I would like to share the updated version with you. For example, in fact, this is what is being criticized in the article. The content given and learning outcomes vague, but it's been updated and the outcomes are referred as just like performance objectives. What are they supposed to do to pass the course? For example, let's look at this. For grammar, to demonstrate, understand a range of the rules, demonstrate a basic working knowledge of the topics stated below. And as we said, there are 5 areas, and after that they can pass the course. They can get pass B or pass A, and here is the criteria overall given, displayed in the syllabus. And how about the implications of this study? The revision of teaching and assessment criteria should be an ongoing process, and it's being updated, and I'm sure it will be updated more. And the development of assessment criteria should be both top-down and bottom-up. I'll explain what I mean by this. And empirical data should be taken into consideration in the creation of assessment criteria, and the content of the criteria should relate to what's been evaluated. For top-down and bottom-up, we can say that to maintain an ongoing dialogue between theorists, teacher educators, and anyone following teaching methodology program should be involved. And the assessment must be flexible, mutable, of course valid and reliable. Thank you.